Instead, we're going to be talking about Fallout, the show that just came out on Amazon Prime. All 8 episodes were released. I watched it in 2 days. It was real fast. Well, it's funny because I watched the first episode.
Is it funny?
Yeah. Well, we recorded that Wednesday, so as soon as we finished recording, I kicked you out of my house. I'm like, get out. I got to watch Fallout.
Get out.
So I watched the first episode with my wife, and she likes it enough that she was watching a second episode, and she's invested. But she knows like how big of a nerd I am with the Fallout lore and how much I love the games. So she's like, go ahead and watch it, and I'll watch it at my own pace.
Yeah.
Before we even get into it, so we're not going into spoilers, because Tyler hasn't seen the whole season. But I wanted to kind of just talk about. I do want to talk about the show, but I'll talk about it in vague terms. I won't spoil anything, but I will talk about elements that are happening throughout the season, and I'll talk about how they're impacting what I think could happen in the future with like season 2 and everything. But
also, I've only seen the first episode.
Yeah,
and we have been cooking up an idea to do kind of a one-off every so often. Do you want to announce it here or
no? We didn't agree to this. I swear, every time.
Modern Mythology is going to be a one-off series from time to time, and we have a couple of different episodes coming up.
It's going to be its own thing. It's going to be its own feed and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Right, but we're going to kind of preview that tonight a little bit because Jake is going to try to explain the Fallout universe to me.
Yeah, but also talk about the show itself. Like I do
didn't agree to that part of it.
Well, for starters, this is like we've talked before. This is what's fun about it. It's like when Dune was coming out in Dune Part 2, how excited you were to be like, hey, you're going to be watching these movies and you're invested in this thing that I've loved for years. Like, it's cool. Like, I've always joked about it where, like, it is that feeling of, like, it is the opposite of gatekeeping where it's like, oh, my gosh, you're interested in this? Let me tell you about all the cool shit.
Yeah, and the thing too is like, and it's different because like the Dune, I didn't want to give too much away because I want people to experience it like I did, which is you read the book or I watched the Dune movie in the 80s first, then later on I read the book itself and was like blown away because it's so much deeper than the movie, and then you explore everything. Video games are a little different. It's an adaptation. We're diving into an adaptation of an existing video game franchise.
IP, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's crazy to think that we're getting, and we talked about on the Halo show, just like we are at the era where we're getting so much diversity in video game adaptations and in the TV on streaming and stuff because they finally understood at some point the best way to deliver these stories is episodic, because when it is you only have 2 hours to adapt an 800-page book, right? If you want to do a movie,
right?
But with a show, and it's the same with the video game. You're trying to take a 15, 20, 100-hour story that you're trying to condense into a 2-hour movie. Well, it just doesn't work. So, like, of course, a 8 to 10 episode season, 1 hour episodes work so well, and that's what's so good about this show.
Well, there's
how well it uses that format.
Every one of these games, a lot of games use cutscenes, and they're Hollywood quality cutscenes. You have people, big name actors doing voices on these things.
I mean, the Fallout franchise
doing
itself,
mocap and shit. All that stuff. So what to boil it down, Hollywood is going, to boil it down, the TV and movie industries are saying, what pisses us off are video games. And why do they piss us off? Because people playing video games are not watching movies or watching TV. That takes money away from me. So how the fuck do I get all these video gamers to watch TV or watch movies?
Well,
the simplest answer And thank God they've come up with this one because the adaptations have been so far pretty fucking great, except for Halo. But
yeah.
But the two that I've seen, Last of Us and this one, are really good regardless of the game because I've never played the games, but I'm still invested.
And that's what that's the thing that excites me a lot about what this show is doing and why it's so important to nail it and get it right, because how excited I am. And this is what
it's kind of embarrassing.
There's a lot of this is what's the funny thing about the internet. It really shows you the duality of fandoms. There's some fans of this show of Fallout that are upset with some of the choices they make in the show, saying it messes with the canon and it changes things.
Is there a canon?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
But this I'm of the mind it does not mess with the canon that think it does. And there's a whole thing we can kind of get into a little bit about it. But what excites me a lot with this is I have had multiple people who have never heard about or known about Fallout without either me mentioning it or they'd already played it themselves. Most of my friends that I've talked to don't really know about it. I only have like a few friends that have actually played the game that we talk about and shit. And so to have this show come out and see it catch this mainstream audience, and like same thing with The Last of Us, when you nail this and you tell because a lot of these stories are really fucking good. Yeah. And it's good to see that like people are understanding like, hey, we don't have to dumb this shit down. We don't have to make there's a built-in mature adult audience that knows this shit. Well, like if we do it right, looking at you again, fucking Halo. If we do it right, it's a win-win for everybody because you're pulling in. And you know what? I had two friends that have never fucking picked up a Fallout game, never even gave a shit, watched this show and said, I'm thinking about playing those games. And I'm like, yes! I'm sorry, but it's just like it's so fucking simple.
Break the system.
I'm sorry. I slapped the table because it's like
where's the damn soundboard?
It's a simple fix. It's a simple solve. It's a simple thing.
Well, you want to talk about a crossover hit
adaptation.
I mean, well, yeah, because I mean these stories are good enough to bring in just the non-gamer like myself. Like I'll probably finish the series, but it's been long enough since I watched the first episode. I might not, but it doesn't matter either way. The point is that I thoroughly enjoyed the first episode, and if I hadn't had so much shit to do the first day that I watched it, I would have kept watching it. But I had a bunch of shit. So the point is that it's a good enough story that draws me in, knowing nothing about the game, not really caring to know any more about the game or play the game. That makes that's really cool. That the story is so good and so layered that I want to finish it to find out all the shit. My brother is like, hey, ask Jake, are people supposed to act stupid in the game like this? And your answer was,
oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. This show, it is I would say, arguments can be made about how some people feel about the later episodes, but I think this is a picture perfect adaptation. I would hold it up against The Last of Us. I would personally even say more than The Last of Us, but that bias is because I fucking adore this franchise. So I love Fallout a lot more than I do The Last of Us. So I'm immediately gonna give it that edge.
Let's go finish.
No, I mean the thought is like I want to talk about the impact of it. I want to talk about the impact of this show.
Well, I wanted to raise one point before we
and
when you get to a point.
And kind of talk about the broader thing because I can't talk about much. Fucking dick. But it's your fault.
It's your fault. It's your fault. Be mad at yourself.
It's true. Tell him, Shannon. Tell him, Shay.
Yeah. It's your fault.
It's your fault. I'm sorry I smacked the table earlier, but it was just like,
what the hell?
It's like, it's so simple. It's like when James Gunn was talking about, these are the comic books I'm reading that are inspiring the movies. Like, he gets it. Like, that's what's so fun about adaptations and why, it may not do the things that you would want or the things that you, as long as you can make sense in the world and not like completely abandon, like this show nails the tone and what Fallout is. Like there's this grim seriousness and this like legit moral choices. Like there's some quests where I was like legitimately heartbroken of like what happened, you know. And then there's like really fucking wacky shit where, oh, there's aliens over here, or there's these group, hey, the guy at the NCR, hey, can you kill these fucking thugs and cut off their heads and bring me their heads and I'll give you money. It's like that weird, wacky shit, and then the seriousness. It's always what I've loved about it. And this show gets it.
Well, look at last week's episode for any sort of, I mean, you could probably look at other episodes too. I just couldn't name them right off the top of my head. But last week's episode, when I just go off on the tangent about the storm stuff, I love that shit because I grew up with it, and it's like, it's seminal like reading in my world. And yeah, it's very, 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 very easy for me to be like, well, let me tell you about this. This is cool. And just, and an hour later, like, what?
Yeah.
And literally, even though I listened back to it and I did explain it pretty well, but because it's so convoluted in itself, no matter how you explain it, naturally, when I got done, you were like, I have no fucking clue.
So I'll do the same thing to you. I'll kind of like brief because
I'm saying like that.
I want to answer some questions you may have, and I have none. I want to try and answer some questions that other people have.
Why does this show suck?
Because I want this to start being the conversation. This is what I'm trying to do, and what I want to do.
Can I ask
hold on, just like let me fucking talk. I want to reach people like you that are probably never, and that's like I was watching things about The Last of Us, and Troy Baker, who was Joel in the game, he plays like one of the characters. I can't remember the name of his character on the show, but he was like Neil Druckmann, the guy who was a co-writer on that story, explained to him about the adaptation, and he's like, "What? We don't need a TV show. The story in the game was perfect, and like I'm proud of that story." And he's like, I understand that, but we're trying to get people that will never pick up a controller. Might never pick up a controller. And this show is doing that, much like The Last of Us did. Yeah. It has that crossover appeal because you know what? And it's the same thing you and I were talking about with Dune, and what made me latch onto it is because there is no denying the rule of cool. If it looks cool and it looks interesting and there's good enough, like there's enough story that I can follow that I'm invested in, I'm going to get sucked in. And like Fallout is ripe with that. It's got that 1950s retro futuristic look to it. It's in our world, but it's in this weird cool future, What
are all the great franchises have in common? And what are the best franchises have that sets them apart from all the other ones?
Yeah.
We're first class world building.
Yeah.
They built a world before they let you in.
Mm-hmm.
They know everything about that world before you even get there.
Yeah.
And video game, book, movie, TV show, whatever, they build it so that it feels fucking real.
You want to escape. It's escapism, right? So you want to build, and you want these worlds to feel lived in, and every fucking Fallout game feels like that, and this show feels like that, because there's enough relatable, understandable things.
Well, there's human beings human beings are the characters, so you have to, you naturally relate, because you're a human being, so you find yourself, what would I do in that situation, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty fun.
Dude, you know what's so fucking cool to me about this story is the fact that we're getting a storyline where the main protagonist is a ghoul.
Yeah.
You don't get that in the games. Like you can't. So in Fallout, you're a human by default. You are in Fallout 3 and 4 kind of. So like what I love, what makes this a great adaptation, what makes this show so good to me is that it sums up what it's like to play a Fallout game. Usually, you start as a vault dweller because that is how they're going to introduce you into the world as this new factor, this new character into this world, and lore explain why you're doing this, right? Which is what happens with Lucy. At the end of the first episode, she leaves the vault. Like, there you go. That's the intro to the game. You're out in the wasteland now. And then every episode up until the finale is exactly what it's like to play a Fallout game where you're going, I have one simple objective, get my dad. But every step of the way, there is a distraction. It's a side mission after side mission, and it's like it's so frustrating or it's so funny because it's like that's what the Fallout games are so good at environmental storytelling and so good at keeping you in the world that like you think you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna go retrieve this item, and then it turns into a 7-hour quest, like 7-hour side story, and you're like, what the fuck? But it's amazing. You know what I mean?
One of the first games that frustrated the fuck out of me, and one of the first best games, especially considering how much memory these fucking games had, but Metroid.
Yeah.
The original on the NES system. Dude, that game was all about like you have to get this before you can get this, but then you have to get this before you get that.
It's a whole genre. It's called the Metroidvania. Like it made a whole genre.
Absolutely.
Castlevania and Metroid, yeah.
Right, yeah, Castlevania is the same yeah, you have to get
it's backtracking and going, yep.
And another great example, the Lego Star Wars, not the one they have out now, but the first one where it was all the first 6 movies, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you can go back and replay levels as a droid, or because when you play it on story, you default to whatever character they give you, right? Yeah, or you have a team, whatever.
Yeah, it's like a new game plus.
Yeah, so but only droids can like fly and get up to this or whatever and open these doors and so on and so forth. So yeah, you have to. And the same thing with Castlevania and Legend of Zelda of Metroid.
Yeah.
You have to play through some levels and then go back to those levels and get something after you get something over here. And then it's frustrating, but once you figure it out, and by the way, I used a lot of cheat sheets. What was it? Nintendo Power used to have like the first couple levels, they would just give you like map out the first 2 levels of like a new game and shit, and like it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking do that.
And so
I don't mind doing it if I have a handy guide.
There's a point in the later episodes where Lucy and the ghoul, they run into each other in the second episode, and they kind of run into they're kind of with each other for a good couple episodes throughout the season. And there's one line that he says, or I'm like, you can clearly like. A lot of this is like you can clearly tell these are people, again, Paramount, pay attention, people that have played the games, and B, love the games and know how to fucking write in the universe. Because he makes a line, because she talks about like the values of the vault was always doing the right thing or whatever. And the ghoul, he's grabbing her because he like captured her or whatever. And he grabs her and he goes, yeah, well, there's a rule of the wasteland. There's a commandment of the wasteland, thou shalt get distracted by pointless bullshit or something, and like exactly that is what the game is these. But the side quests, I want to be very clear, are some of the best parts of the game.
Sure,
I'm just saying it's just that's what will happen. You're so engrossed in all these other characters in this world that you're like, oh shit, I gotta go find my son or whatever.
Oh shit.
New Vegas is the exception, where that one is you're just a character that's in the world that got shot in the head and somehow didn't die and got dug out of their grave. And then, yeah, New Vegas is amazing. I've done videos on the YouTube channel about it. But no, it's exciting that so many people that are probably never going to play the game. But again, I had a friend who was like, hey, I want to play these games. Can I play them on my Xbox? I'm like, yeah, you got Game Pass? Yeah, go ahead, check them out. And it just really again reminds me of how much more fun it is to be the total opposite of gatekeeping and be like, come on in, let's like, let's learn about this. And you're gonna have disagreements in the fandom. That's what happens when you have people with different views and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, even this show is divisive amongst fans, but just for me, I think they nailed the tone of the games. They nailed what it feels like to play those games. And I think it does enough to kind of explain the lore, but also doesn't. I love that it doesn't hold your hand, because to me that also respects people like me who know about the lore, played the games. You know what I mean?
Well, they give you
it's a perfect adaptation. Yeah. It gets a new audience, and it has a good story and keeps longtime fans invested. So I can't wait. It already got renewed for season 2, so I can't wait for that. Yep. And another thing that makes me fucking laugh about Bethesda, they're the guys that they own Fallout. Yeah. They've been talking since like late 2023 about doing a current gen update, so updating Fallout 4 for PS5 and Xbox Series X or whatever. And they had to delay it for a while, and then all these like positive reviews come out for the show, and then they're like, "Oh, in a couple weeks, here comes that update." And I was like, "Have you guys just been sitting on this and waiting for people to be like, "Hey, we like the show," to be like, "Hey, Fallout 4." Hey, but you know what?
You guys are dicks.
Hey, I ain't too proud. I'm gonna fucking get the PS5 update. Are you kidding me? And I'm gonna play it again. I don't give a shit. I love these games.
Might add some shit in there.
But yeah, I want to do another video where I actually break down the show itself and the episodes. I want to do something to that effect because I like the idea, and that's the whole idea with the modern mythology and things like that.
Let's get into it.
I found that I like educating people, so
You should become a teacher.
no, I just mean like I want to educate them.
I meant about video games and shit, not real life shit.
Well, because I don't know about you, but I don't know. Sometimes when I'm in bed and I don't have a book to read, I'll just pull up some lore, just like, and it doesn't have to just be Fallout. Most of the time, it is something like that. But it's just like,
Oh yeah, I'll pull up Wikipedia and look up something.
what's this random character and this, comic book series, But for me, it's like, yeah, it's a Fallout thing of like, oh, Caesar's Legion, because of the show, I've been playing New Vegas again. And I have a funny story about that. So all the different factions, there's this one that like is called Caesar's Legion, and they model themselves like around the Roman Empire, like that kind of hierarchy. Like it's a dictatorship. They treat women like shit. It's a slaver society. They're not good people. And I was like, I want to get the achievements for it. And I'm like, I'm committed, man. I'm going to do Caesar's Legion. And it made it even funnier because I made a female character and they don't treat women well. So I'm like, it's more ironic to play through this, I guess. Also, she's, I never played as like, because you can do different stats, right? And I've never done a dumb character where I literally gave this character 1 intelligence, but 10 luck. So I got like crazy. Dude, I win fights. I win so many fights.
You made a female Elon Musk in your game?
Yeah. I made this, I gave like, she's so funny because I made her like a melee. So I'll just punch dudes' faces into like that shot of Ares punching a dude's face. Yeah, I could do that with some of these weapons because the melee's overpowered or whatever. But I was playing it the other night and I was going to do I was committed, dude. I was at a point where I'm like, I'm going to do the Caesar's Legion playthrough. It's going to happen. Yeah. But then I hung out in that camp a little too long, and I literally saved my game, and I'm like, all right, because I need both of these achievements. I'm like, I'm going to finish the Mr. House playthrough right now because I can't deal with these Caesar's Legion guys. And if I feel like it, I'll come back and play it again at this level, or I'll just make a new character and start over. But I've played that game so many times. I also was dabbling into Fallout 3 again. I've played that. I've literally sunk hundreds of hours into those games. So I hope.
Are you finished with your monologue about
well,
Fallout?
I mean, we don't even have a full episode, man. We're only 25 minutes in. And I was going to talk about Fallout for 3 hours.
I know.
I spent hundreds of hours.
I was thinking we'd do something a little different.
I don't want to do anything with you.
Where we could do more of a back and forth.
So. You don't want me just fucking soapboxing? Soapboxing with Jake,
kind of chilling over here, and
scrub a dub, soapboxing with Jake.
Kind of thinking that maybe
you want to take you to the. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so. So I come into this. My exposure to Fallout. I know about Vault Tech because I've seen like stickers and whatnot. The guy with the thumbs up. You have 2 Vault Tech posters on your wall.
Yeah, because I have 2 copies of Fallout.
The same one, or are they different? Posters?
One for Xbox. Oh no, they're from all the perks you get in the game. Yeah, and they're both from Fallout 4.
Oh, I thought it was a map of the vault.
No, it's the perks you get in the game. So Fallout.
Because you ever played those games where you have like an underground vault, and that's how it's side scrolling?
Well, GTA, the GTA games used to have the maps that you take out of the booklet. I used to have those too. Well, it was a poster on one side, or you could flip it, it's a map.
I don't know anything about Fallout other than that, and when I happen to notice that the game's coming out through some way or another. I don't know. I don't know how many there are. I know of New Vegas. I remember when that came out. And it was like, what? All right, whatever. Because it's a pop culture thing. You're aware of it, like being aware of I you know, not Taylor Swift, but you know, things like that. I don't listen to Taylor Swift, but I'm aware of her, and I have been for a long, long time.
Well, I think it's mostly because of me. Or were you aware of it at all before we?
I've been aware of gamings.
No, I mean Fallout in general.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, just because I think the kids, I had stepkids for a while, and I think one of the kids had like the Vault Tech sticker on something on one of his control or whatever his dresser. I don't know, furniture, some sort of.
You had seen it somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, they. I think I don't know if they played it or not. I didn't really bug them like, hey, what are you playing? You know,
what you're playing, fellow kids?
Yeah.
It's your cool day.
Most of what I remember them playing a lot is Minecraft and what the other fucking
Roblox.
No, it's the other one where you had the bus.
Fortnite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fortnite and Minecraft were the two that I and the
Makes
roller the soccer game with cars.
Rocket League.
So those are the three games they played mostly.
I play a lot of Rocket League.
But they must have had some sort of Fallout something somewhere because I you know,
the
but
last
I'm also,
one was 76, and that was a multiplayer game.
As a gamer,
I hate that game.
As a comic book fan and a fan of fantasy and science fiction and things like that in general, being in comic book shops and everything, I'm gonna be aware of stuff like that. But most of what I don't know is just that it is a thing. That's really it. So I did about a month ago. Just for the hell of it, I looked up the Fallout TV series on Wikipedia. And now this is not... I've done this before where I didn't see a movie, but I wanted to know what happened in it. And the Wikipedia page will give you the plot.
Yeah.
Like the entire thing, right? And so I went and looked at it, and at this point, they don't have anything on it. And it's mostly just conjecture. I didn't, not conjecture, but it's before something comes out on Wikipedia, it's usually like the plot is like, a paragraph or the what is it called? The setup or whatever, like what's going on. And that's what it was. And then they had some little small things and little small things about each character, like a couple of lines about who plays what and why and everything. I didn't want to go to the game and learn any of that stuff. So all I know after reading that is that the vaults are all experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've established that.
Yeah. And they do play with that a lot in this show. And
is 33 is 33 just an arbitrary number they picked for the show?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you are in the game, and you said that almost everyone except for New Vegas, you come out of a vault.
Yeah. It's funny because the first Fallout is the whole plot, and this is the only game that has this of the series. The first one is like you are in a vault, and you have to leave the vault because your water chip is damaged, and you only have like so many hours left of water in the vault before you run out of water or something. And so it's like 13. Like it was some weird number. I can't remember the number. Again, I never played the first two Fallout games. And if you like those first two, great. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best to recap what I know about this. Don't
What's
fucking
the
scream
deal?
At me. No, I'm just saying those Fallout.
Are they just really low quality or what?
No, I mean they were made in the 97 was the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the next one was 98. So these were isometric. It was an RPG, but it was more turn-based.
Yeah.
And I played it I've only played the Bethesda Fallout games.
Gotcha.
So Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And so that changes it to like 3D, and it's it's not turn-based, it's action. So like there are elements where they call it VATS, where like you can like slow down time and pick your shots and do
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of a blend of live action and turn-based. But so that first game is about the water chip, and you get that, and the ending is kind of fucked up because you get the water chip, you bring it back, you save the vault, and then the overseer's like, well, you've been exposed to the irradiated world, we can't let you back in here, you could get somebody sick, so they kick you out of the vault. And it's like, that's so fucked.
And that's the end of the game?
That's it. I don't know. Again, this is just rough outlines of it. So there's these. They don't show it in the show at all, but there's these big hulking, like green and yellow skinned things called super mutants, and I don't have time to think. I don't have time to tell you about the lore about the fucking super mutants. But again, this is like is Fallout 2 is more of like taking that, because they're in the first Fallout game too. But Fallout 2 is like you deal with this character named the Master, and you try and
Is Fallout 2 a direct continuation?
So none of them are. Every Fallout game is canon, but it is in different parts of the timeline, and there's a bunch once, because it was originally owned by a company named Interplay.
Right? No.
And Bethesda bought them, and so then there's been some arguments about lore in the later games. But so yeah, Fallout 1, all the Fallout games have their own separate storylines. They're all, and that's the thing. The show doesn't follow any game either. So the show is in canon. But and that's what's so freeing about these games, and why the show works so well, is you could do that, because every game is just different parts of the United States that are, and again, of course, New Vegas, and New Vegas actually uses like real places. Fallout 3 does too. Like you can go to, it's called the Capital Wasteland, and so you can like go downtown DC and see there's missions where you are literally like doing like National Treasure, where you're finding the Declaration of Independence and shit. It's amazing. Like there's so many great things about that game. So like my point is, each game is different. Each game has its own story.
Okay.
But and like the whole like broad thing of like the reason why it looks like it's futuristic is, in this universe, the transistor never existed. So that's why all the tech looks like 1950s, but the year's 2077, because that's just how. It's the alternate timeline, the alternate history of it. And that's another reason I fucking love alternate history shit like that. So,
me too.
And so like the big conflict is, instead of Russia, we're fighting with China, because China gets so far advanced, because everything is nuclear power. The cars, everything. So that's why in the games, why you can't drive any cars. Because when the nukes dropped, cars won't work, because it's all nuclear power and fusion cores and all that. I know. But
Watchmen is one of the best comic books ever, because it is an alternate timeline.
Yeah, and there's like tons of cool things, and in the show they reference things like Anchorage, which is an actual battle between China and America after America annexes Canada and has a fight with China over resources on Alaska, and they called it Operation Anchorage and shit like that. And there's like a whole DLC in Fallout 3 for that. And like that's what I mean. These things are so lived in and like crazy of how much detail is in them, and how, like you said, how dense it is. Like before you even start that game, there's so much shit that you can just find and learn and be like, oh wow, there's all these other things. And there's still things that people are finding in games and stuff that I had never heard about. Like, what is that? Yeah. And yeah, I I don't know where I did the Storm thing with you, but the thing that one of the can I do say, without spoiling, what I am worried about with season 2? Sure. And this is what bothers me or worries me about it, because those games are so open-ended, and other like Fallout 1 has a definitive ending with you leaving the vault, but I think every other game like on has alternate endings, because you can make different choices and side with different factions and whatnot. But here's the issue you're going to run into, because the show is canon and in universe, you're going to possibly, and based on where I think they're headed, you're going to have to canonize choices. So you're going to have to say, the canon ending is this faction wins this fight. You know what I mean? Instead of the player choice. So it's going to be interesting how they're going to navigate that for season 2. Anyway. We falling asleep?
No.
We can move on.
No. What I was gonna say is that when like Donkey Kong Country came out, no. But what we would do is this is way before the internet. So what we would do is like 4 or 5 of us would sit around and we'd just get really high, and we would try and beat the game.
With bongos.
But everybody would take their turn. You know, like okay, like we're doing this level on the roller coaster with the mine cars and shit. Okay. All right, well, it's my turn. Okay, and then it's Jeff's turn, and then it's Paco's turn, you know, whatever. But we're trying to beat the game. And like I think that kind of stinks that I mean, I think Nintendo Switch still kind of has that kind of element of it. But I think with the internet giving and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of benefits to it, way more than whatever. But I don't think you get that as much as, you know, you used to with actually being at each other's houses. But the flip side of that is that you can play with somebody who's like half a world away.
Yeah. And,
but
I really wish that Fallout 76 was better than it is. And people tell me like, oh, and people keep saying like, oh, it's great. And I'm like, that's great, man. But
which one is that?
That's the most recent one, and that's the one that's multiplayer.
When did that come out?
2018. But there are many YouTube videos by far more talented people than me that you can watch explain that whole story, because it is a debacle. Like, it is truly a clusterfuck of mistakes. That game, yeah.
Huh.
Everything pre-release, everything post-release. It had this redemptive arc, but I think that's the thing I hate most about the video game industry right now. I think too many games get released that are broken and are terrible, and then post-release, after they've already been like, oh, that's our $60 beta testers, here, let's finally fix the game months later to get a new player, you know what I mean? And that game suffered remarkably because it is just could you make a good multiplayer Fallout game? Sure. I'm not saying you couldn't make a good...
I don't believe you can, but sure.
No, it's possible. But what they were trying to achieve with this, I just don't think works with Fallout. And I think at least what I understand of it, and at least my experience with it, is the more appealing thing of Fallout is to talk about each other's choices and the things that you did differently in your own stories, not necessarily playing it together. I don't know. It just didn't appeal to me. And I tried multiple times to play it. I think the community is filled with really like generous and nice players. Like, I was a really low level, and some high level person gave me a bunch of health packs. They call them stim packs. And I was, that's another thing I wanted to mention about the show, but I'm all over the place. But like, it didn't appeal to me. The games itself, I feel, are more appealing to play the game, have your choices, and be like, what did you do in this situation? And that's what's so fun about role-playing games and in general.
My thing was that, you know, my role-playing game involves leather. No. I just want to be funny because we're talking about role-playing. But...
So happens and the whip comes out. Right.
All right.
Hey, what's the deal? That's the whip.
What's the deal with stiletto heels?
They're in my balls.
Oh, Kramer.
I'm getting backsacked.
Newman.
They've turned it off.
Role playing. So when I was younger, like I was big into like role playing RPG, like Steve Jackson games, like D&D type, but they were all you know, like you rolled dice to create a character and wrote everything down, and then you know, like that. But nowadays my role playing like video game is like Madden. Mm-hmm. Okay, now Madden, and I do kind of cheat on Madden.
You can't let this out. You can't put this business in the streets.
What?
They can't know what you do to Madden.
Yes, I can.
Yes, they can.
way to make them think that I fuck the game. Jesus Christ. They can't know what you do to men.
They're gonna sound like
I'm
you're having sex
I made
with John
you actually
Madden.
do spit take. You could have just let it fly too. You let it just dribble out your mouth.
John Madden.
Turn the goddamn thing up. Leave it up. Where's the what? Anyway, did you get anything? Well, you're like, I can't let them know what you do to Madden. No, but what I do is
Turn the sliders up.
well,
and
no,
you cheat.
A couple things. First thing, like where
No, I didn't mean to do it that time.
well, it's funny and accurate. No, the
Oh no, the giggles.
so the wherever the Vikings suck. Whenever I start a new Madden franchise, okay, because I do franchise mode, right, or Dynasty, whatever it's called now.
It's Dynasty in the
Sure.
college football game.
I never do online gaming. In fact, whenever I played the game, the kids always played with what was it, internet on, and I always played with it internet off.
Xbox, yeah.
Right, or Xbox Live, whatever.
Yeah.
I always turn it off because if I would have started the game with Xbox Live on, it would have fucking fucked all of my rosters. Because it would have, you know what I mean? It would have automatically downloaded and updated all the rosters, what have you. So I always had to do that first of all. So I think it's a cool idea in theory.
Well, it's fun to
But
play.
in
I've played
practice,
it online.
there's
It's
so
fun.
many fucking bullies and shit, like in the online gaming community. So whatever, I just don't do it. Then, so the Vikings suck at quarterback, say, which they do right now. So if I started playing Madden right now, I might make myself the quarterback, like a 20-year-old, dude from Iowa, and yeah, it'd be like 6'4", and just make yourself like a Hercules and shit. And then I turn all the sliders down. Yeah, so I win the Super Bowl every year. But
So I win the Super Bowl.
well,
Hey,
I do.
You know what?
I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe I win the
cheat. I
Maybe,
cheat
maybe
at
I
Madden.
do.
I cheat at Madden very, very.
Maybe fuck yourself.
But the thing is like the role playing part for me comes in the off season, and that is when guys retire. You have to look at your salary cap. Well, who can you afford? What kind of guys can you get? You got to go through the draft. Did you hit in the draft? If you didn't hit in the draft, well, that's whatever. Anybody who plays, anybody who watches NFL knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about without playing Madden.
Yeah.
But that's where my role playing comes from.
Oh yeah. There's a theory that
I still role play. It's just very,
yeah.
very real world role playing.
I think it was
My other game that I like to play is Wall Street Broker.
So it was I think it was the G4 when they came back briefly on their YouTube channel, but they explained that like football games are RPGs for sure. They are.
Yeah.
Because you choose a role, owner, coach, player, whatever, then you make those decisions. Do you relocate the team? Do you fire this coach? Do you sign this player?
Right.
Do you whatever it is? But
now in general, like in like say Dynasty mode or franchise mode in the college or Madden games or whatever, you like if you played it a lot more challenging than I do, you might get to a point where you're the coach and you get fired, right? Like I did it to a point where they're never going to fire me unless I quit. So I do like you can do up to 30 years in franchise mode on Madden, right?
And at that point, you're bulletproof. So you're like,
I'm ballsy.
Yeah. Did
What?
you play another one? Oh, I thought
Oh,
you did play another
there
one.
was a longer one. I fucked it up. So.
But the point is like like in Fallout, like I would always ask the stepkids. I would always ask one of them, what's the point of the game? Like what are you trying to get to? Whatever.
Yeah.
Now, to me, whenever I've only done 30 years for real in Madden, and I skipped all the games, obviously, but I've only done it a full 30 years once, where it said, "Hey, good job, you're done." That's all it says. It just says, "All right, good."
Oh,
you
okay,
did.
there's no more data.
But what I'm saying,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that, like, I mean, the ultimate end goal in that is,
Winning the
I
Super Bowl.
guess, every year.
Yeah.
And it changes every year. You know what I mean? Like it resets
Hall
every
of
season.
Fame or whatever.
So it's still it's a different kind of RPG, but it still is. And it sounds like the best kind of RPGs to me, like Fallout, are the ones where you can, if you wanted to, like me, cheat and just fucking go and do it the way you want to, or you can do it in a challenging way like you probably do. I don't know why. Well, I want to stress myself out with video games
let
too.
me be clear. I had a friend.
just kidding.
I had a friend ask me like, "Hey, did you ever play New Vegas on hardcore mode or like Fallout 4 on survival mode?" I'm like, "Fuck no,
No.
no,
Well, no. I mean, I'm not
Hey.
saying that, but you play it on regular mode. You don't,
no." I know, but
I'm sure there's little toggle switches that make the game easier in every game.
well, it's like you hardcore mode, survival mode. It's like you got to remember to eat and drink and watch your radiation levels and all that. I'm like,
Jesus.
I got to do that in regular life.
I ain't gotta do that.
Especially the radiation one. Hey, yo.
Hey,
Uh,
we live in New Vegas,
I
motherfucker.
don't know, man. I feel like I wish, but
Did
then
you?
that would mean
Yeah, that's what I
nuclear
thought you'd
destruction.
say. You wish. It fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.